Well, howdy, howdy. Now, back in the old days, 1700s and on, they used to have biscuits, and they were known as hardtack. Hardtack is, it's basically just flour, maybe a little salt and water, and you bake biscuits out of it. And it's hard as a rock. It's like eating a hockey puck. Hockey puck. Right? And not the best of foods, but it was food, and it was baked, and it lasted a long time. And that's what they lived on. Now, you can compare relationships to baking, right? You know, you mix all of your ingredients together, bake it, and it's done. And hardtack is oftentimes what a lot of people, I guess, consider to be a relationship or whatever, you know, friendships. And it's not very good, but it's done. And autistic people, a lot of times, are actually quite good bakers, or maybe mixers, is how I would describe that, right? They're good at mixing up the batter, you know, and they can mix a fine cake. But kind of the problem is they just don't bake the damn thing, right? You know, and what is that? Well, okay, mixing, think of that as peopling, right? It's the time you spend getting to know people and having a conversation, interesting conversation, endearing them to you. And baking, well, that's just the waiting. And if you don't bake your cake, then it's not going to get done, and you're never going to have a cake, right? Baking is essential as the mixing is, right? Can't have either, you know, can't have a cake without either one. And most relationships aren't cookie dough, right? So a lot of people can make hardtack or whatever, you know, have boring conversations, and you know, it's just not that interesting, but they bake. But, you know, we don't bake, we don't wait, right? And, you know, relationships, they follow 3 easy steps, right? You mix, bake, and reward. If you know how to do these things, you'll never be short a friend, right? But we just go too fast, and we ask too much, and they leave, and it never gets started. Happened to me a million times, right? And so let's just kind of think about the mixing part, and we mess up the mixing part. Well, you know, what's good mixing? Okay, well, good mixing is kind of a matter of pressing the right buttons, right? Right, you want to press, I'll call it the fire button, and you don't want to press the water button. Now, good peopling is like love, right? It's giving, and it asks nothing in return. And when you're asking things in return, you're pressing the water button, right? And when you're giving, you're pressing the fire button. And we need to have a clear understanding of this, you know, how to mix things well. So, you know, what would asking things in return be, right? Well, it'd be asking for validation, right? Maybe you're feeling really self-conscious, so you bring up all your social troubles or whatever, and you want them to validate you because it's so hard to connect, right? You know, and if you don't have good body language and good eye contact, you don't feel connected to them, and that's what I used to do a lot, right? You're scratching and reaching out or whatever, so you have to go deep, right? And you connect on that, on your insecurities, right? Because that's kind of the only way you can do it, because you just don't know how. Right? Well, what does that really do? right? That means that, you know, they're trying to fix you, they're trying to help you, and that's their reward, right? That's it's kind of based on altruism, and not on their self-interest, and not because they enjoy being around you. You know, so their whole motivation is just to make you feel better. And that's not a good motivation, and I don't think that's the motivation you want for them. Right? But there's a better way. You know, and you mix stuff. Another thing that can be the water button would be bragging, right? You know, you tell them about all the great things you do, so they'll be impressed and they'll see worth in you, right? And you're asking something there. You're asking for them to be impressed by you, right? You know, you're demanding something of them. And that don't work, right? That does not impress people. And there's a better way for that, too. Bad mixing can be, and sometimes isn't, giving. Right? You want to do things for people or whatever so they'll like you, or you want them to like you, so you do things for them, you give them things, and then they just want your shit. Not you. You know, that's also bad mixing, right? There's just a lot of things that are asking someone of something or whatever, or say you just meet them and you start planning your relationship together. That's asking a whole lot, right? Because you're asking for their future, right? And all of these things put people in a position where they're not acting out of self-interest, right? They're acting out of, I guess, altruism or guilt or being interested in your stuff, right? And they don't like that, right? If you want people to be around you, then you have to make your presence rewarding, right? And you have to winnow out the water button and the fire button and understand the difference between the two, because they seem to run together, right? But when you can get it clear in your head, right, you can see what's really happening, right? You need to differentiate them things, you know. And what are fire buttons? Well, sometimes they can look a lot alike, right? You know, a good fire button might actually be giving. But it's a different type, right? A good rule of thumb is if you give something and you'll be disappointed that they don't reciprocate or give back, then just don't give it. Right? You know, only give when you don't even want anything in return, right? When you want them to be happy, right? When you're giving of yourself. Those are very different things. They seem exactly alike, but the motivations are different, and they're going to feel that, right? You know, and the most important giving of all is just good peopling, right? Good eye contact, good body language, you know, open body language, not too much eye contact, not enough. Asking questions, but you need to make them feel you, right? You need to give them good feelings, because that's the ultimate motivator, right? You know, isn't that why people make money or go after careers or do almost anything? Because they want to feel good, right? And you need to supply that directly. And that's the most important thing that you can give. You know, and you can give just interesting insights or jokes. Helps a lot. But you need to understand what is giving, right, and what is asking. Right? So you start your conversation, you give them good feelings, you make them feel better, right? And then maybe the most, well, that's not the most important thing of all, right? But an essential part that you just got to have, right, is that you bake it. Right? You want to focus on that. Focus on people and focus on them. Listen to them. Compliments. Sincere compliments, right? You give, and then you bake. by giving them space, right? Give them good feelings and leave them off at a high point to stew on that, to bake that, to think about you, right? They need to be thinking about you with good feelings and have no feelings that you're asking anything of them, right? And they might want to come back to you and they might not, but oftentimes they do. And when they do, reward them, right? When they come back to you, think of all that rejection, channel that shit, and channel that into happiness, right? And just reward them, right? Give them a good stimulus, let them wait, then reward them. 3 simple things. If you know how to do this, you will never be lacking for friends, right? And as opposed to asking where you're asking for them to validate you, right? It doesn't work because they just feel sorry and you feel worse about yourself and they leave you. So they don't validate you. But if you're giving them a good time and asking nothing, then they will do that automatically, right? You don't have to try. You focus on validating them and it'll come back in a big way on you. But don't focus on that, right? Because good peopling, is giving and it asks nothing in return. It wants the best for someone. It'll give them up if that's the best for them, right? And good peopling is like love, that you experience love in the loving, not in the being loved, right? That's where you find love. That's what you're looking for. You can't feel what they're feeling. Focus on loving them and learn to appreciate that feeling, right? And if you're asking nothing, it'll flood back on you, right? And it will validate you and they will love you, and your self-esteem will go up, right? It will make you feel so much better about yourself, right? I mean, it's a very simple thing, and it's almost foolproof. I mean, some people might not come back or whatever, and you got to let that go. But, basically you want them to be acting in their best self-interest, right? And ultimately, what do people want? They want to feel good. So you're giving them what they want. Then you pull back, let them think about it. Then when they come back, you reward them. Boom. And this process, this cycle, could be even in 5 minutes. Right? Have a good conversation, stop, pull back, and then reward them. It could be over a course of days. You have a great time, then you come back, but it's the same damn thing. Every time, right? You are giving them something they want without giving them something they don't want. And they will not be able to help it, They'll want to come back to you because you're supplying something they like. Right? We can't bribe people to like us, right? And we can't appeal to their sympathy because that's just poor motivation. And thing is you don't want people to feel sorry for you. And you don't want your relationships to revolve around your inadequacies, right? Because you got so much to offer, right? Autistic people could be some of the best bakers ever because they are so interesting and so much full of life and love, that we bake a damn fine cake, if we just get out of our own way. You see what I'm saying? That ain't no hardtack, Hardtack is like boring relationships, and hardtack used to get full of worms and maggots. It probably didn't taste worse, but at least it was a little softer. So many autistic people were this close. We were doing so many good things right? And, it really is that simple. It is that simple, right? Do good peopling, right? Eye contact, body language, feel them, learn to feel them. You know, get in your head. Feel those feelings, right? Entertain yourself and let that out. You know. And it just works. You know. It works like a charm. And that is exactly, you know, how it's done. How you make friends, how you make them feel good. Simple. Okay, so this was cubbypotamus, and maybe I'll see you around.